biggest of running a successful call center, and maybe of running any successful business, is people portion. Is that your customers? Yeah. Is that the people that you're calling? Yeah. But it's really the people who work with you. Herb Kelleher, the original founder and CEO of Southwest Airlines, he's the first one who said, hey, the customer really isn't always right. And for years, you heard that in the US, customer's always right. Well, everybody knows that's not true, okay? Well, he was kind of the first one to say that publicly. And he said, I'm not going to worry about my customers. I'm going to take care of my people. And because I take such great care of my people, they're going to take such great care of my customers.
Hey, it's Lynn here. Today, I invited an EO member from the US who I got the pleasure to meet through my EO or entrepreneur organization that I'm part of. Now, Don Williams owns an American-based call center, and I thought it would be really interesting to get to know how he built his business, as it's quite similar to having a BPO or a VA company like mine. Plus, he's also a Christian entrepreneur, so I was really curious about how he integrated faith and work too. Don is a podcast host, author, speaker, and CEO of Don Williams Global, a performance-based sales consulting firm. He has over 30 years of sales experience and knowledge. And he's also the CEO of Alliance, a company that provides lead generation, appointment setting, sales, and customer service through various channels, a company which he started in 1986. Well, join me as we discover the ins and outs of setting up a call center in the US and how you too can either build your own call center business or an outbound sales team. Hey, Don, so good to have you on the show.
Lynn, I am so thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I love that EO allows us to connect no matter where we are, so you're over in the US and I'm in Sydney, and yet, and there's something powerful about EO, right? The moment you meet, you just feel like I've known you for a long time. Is that how you feel about EO as well?
Absolutely, and a good friend of mine in EO Detroit, Dave Galbensky, he coined this term several years ago called instamacy, so instant intimacy. And that's kind of what we have in EO, is that you and I met on a Zoom call on an unrelated topic and hit it off, and here we are.
Yeah. And for those who don't know what EO is, it's entrepreneur organization. And I've actually got another podcast called EO Business Podcast. I've been talking a lot about it on social media, so do check it out. Now, I wanted to talk to you today because you've got an interesting business model that's quite similar to mine, except that I do offshore, you do, onshore, as well as I'm completely remote, but you are, you have an office, or you had an office with lots of people in there. And so it's a model that a lot of my audience love to know about. It's like, how do I build a team and create jobs for people and deliver a service that business owners need? And so would you be able to share your journey on why you chose to build a call center and build it in America, etc.?
That is such a great question. And I've been on a lot of podcasts and nobody has ever asked me that. And so I can tell you this, I wasn't 7 years old as a little boy and said, when I grow up, I'm going to build a call center. That did not happen. And so I started out in sales early in my career, and we always had a telephone component that set up appointment for us to do sales presentations. So the telephone is really strong tool for lead generation and appointment setting. And so many times today, we call those SDRs or sales development reps. Back when I got started, we called them phone men and phone girls. Okay. And they had, little black, they didn't have dial phones, but they had the little phones that you push the numbers. And so I've literally had call center operations for almost 40 years. And so I sold my first company, started it, grew to 22 brick and mortar locations. And when I sold that company, the buyer was not interested in my call center or the building which housed the call center. And so how I ended up in the call center business is I looked at this technology I had, and I looked at these people that I had, and I said, we could do this for other people. We could be what I would call a service bureau. We'll provide this as a service to other clients. And so this is guerrilla marketing at its best. I found the 50 largest service bureaus in the United States. And this is how long I've been in this business. I sent them a fax, not an email. I sent them a fax okay, that said, hey, I've opened a call center and we're owner occupied, which that's a good line. You know, if you're trying to figure out where's the best quality, owner managed is many times better than non-owner managed. And we're located here. And if you have work that doesn't fit you, maybe it would fit me. And
Mm.
so you'd be surprised at how many people had work that didn't fit them that did fit me. And some wanted a referral and some said, hey, no, we don't care about a referral. And that's how I got started as a service bureau. I've always had call center operations, and I'm probably always going to. I think the phone is one of the most powerful tools anybody can use for their business, and most people are terrified of it. They would do
Okay.
they'd do
Yeah.
anything to keep from picking up a phone.
Uh-huh. I know. And I was, I had a session with you because I was picking your brain around how to do cold calling, and you're the man for that. And I want to deep dive into that cold calling later. But in terms of building the business, so where did you grow it to? Like, how big was the operation? How many call center people did you end up having?
So at our largest, we've had 150 communicators on station at one time. Okay. And in the call center business, that's actually what would be considered boutique. Many of my friends in the business, their minimum would be 150 or 200 communicators for a 12-month contract. The call center business is huge. In the United States, over 4% of the working population of the United States works in or supporting call centers.
Mm.
4%. That's roughly equal to the number of teachers, K through university.
Yeah.
And so it's one of the biggest employer groups. And the truth is, not only in the States, but all over the world, we can't really do business without the telephone.
Mm.
We can do business without the fax. Fax is almost gone. In the US, there's still some healthcare, like doctors and hospitals talk. They can't talk electronically. They have to talk, analog, okay, because it cannot be hacked. But so there's still some faxing going on, but not very much. But the phone is always going to be a part of our business toolbox. As long as people have ears and mouths, the phone's going to be there.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's true because one of my first job during uni was actually telemarketing. So I know what it's like to be on that side of the phone where I'm like, looking up numbers and calling up. And I think it's one of the best ways to build your confidence, actually. So just to get people to understand, so at the moment, I know you write books and stuff. Like, how are you still running the telemarketing business? And you're an author. Like, yeah, where are you up to now? Because you've been in business for like over 40 years. So we'd like to know where you are at this stage.
So thank you. So I still own a call center, okay, and we do primarily outbound business to business cold call appointment setting. We're like the last people on the planet who do that, but we're very good at it. We've done it for a long time. I'm in the life and health insurance business. I'm in the real estate business, administrative support business. I'm in a different real estate business. I'm in several real estate businesses. And on top of that, I have a little podcast, Proven Entrepreneur Show. I've published 4 books, written and published 4 books. And I have 3 currently in the works. And so I'm a believer that if you want to get something done, give that task to somebody who's busy, because they'll figure it out how to get it done.
How inspiring. You're doing so much. We all have 24 hours. And I feel like, yeah, my day's already full just working on one business. So why is it that you stuck with hiring just American telemarketers compared to maybe other people choosing to go the offshore model? Like, what are the advantages that kept you sticking with this model?
Well, and truthfully, I'm probably, if you look back at the entire 37 years in the call center business, I'm probably 10% near or offshore and 90% domestic. Okay.
Mhm.
And so there have been times. So most people, when they think about nearshore or offshore, they're thinking, hey, I was paying $50 and I'm going to pay $5. And I'm like,
Mhm.
well, that you're probably not. Okay. Because the project management that's required for nearshore offshore is much larger than project management that's required for domestic. But in our life, I'll give you a really good example. So we do a lot of work in healthcare. And so we're calling independently non-hospital owned physicians for pharmaceutical companies, medical device companies, et cetera. And we might call those physicians from the US, but the physicians that are East Indian surnamed, we're going to call from India. Okay. Not really because we're going to save a little money. But we're not going to save that 80-90%. Sometimes people think, well, I'm just going to get people to work for 2 grains of rice a day. I'm like, you're not. That is not going to happen anywhere.
Right.
But they'll save a little. Maybe they'll save 20% or something like that by the time it's said and done. But the benefit is this: when I have a person in India calling a person from India, okay, I share 2 languages and a culture. Okay. Because we're all in the people business. Just what we started talking about at EO, that intimacy, that personal connection. Okay. I'm a big believer that companies don't have relationships with companies. People in companies have relationships with people in companies. And so I think there's a right solution for every problem. And maybe that's workers in the Philippines, and maybe it's workers in the Ukraine, and maybe it's workers in the Dominican Republic. But I also don't really think there's a one size fits all. One solution solves all problems. Makes sense.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So in your years of experience, what are some of the challenges in running a business like yours? A call center, is that 24/7 that it runs, or is there a closing time?
Yeah, we run basically 8 a.m. Eastern to 8 p.m. Pacific. So that's like a 15-hour day because we're primarily outbound. And so the biggest issue is probably also the biggest benefit is, the call center business. For those people who aren't familiar with it, they think it's a technology business, and technology certainly plays a piece. Okay. But this is a people business. Okay. And really we're all in the people business. You may think you're in the concrete business, but you're not. You're selling concrete to people who want a specific solution, and they don't want it to go wrong, and they don't want it to go over budget. They don't want to look bad. And so biggest of running a successful call center, and maybe of running any successful business, is people portion. Is that your customers? Yeah. Is that the people that you're calling? Yeah. But it's really the people who work with you. Herb Kelleher, the original founder and CEO of Southwest Airlines, he's the first one who said, hey, the customer really isn't always right. And for years, you heard that in the U.S., the customer's always right. Well, everybody knows that's not true. Okay. Well, he was kind of the first one to say that publicly. And he said, I'm not going to worry about my customers. I'm going to take care of my people. And because I take such great care of my people, they're going to take such great care of my customers. And so, culture, your brand is, everything people think and feel about you, but your culture is kind of your brand alive. It's living and breathing, and it's talking with people, and it's helping people, and it's serving people. And so we've been very fortunate. My entire career, I've been able to attract, recruit, and retain exceptional people. And so I have a whole bunch of people who work with me that are better and smarter than me. And that's made all the difference.
Yeah. So it comes down to finding the best people and keeping them. What do we look out for if we were trying to even just build out one person to call, do cold calling for a small business?
Great question. So first off, we don't like to train novices. So we want someone who has done outbound cold calling somewhere in their past. They probably didn't like it. They probably didn't like who they did it with. And so it's easy for us to provide a better experience to someone who's already done it. Plus, if you hire people who've never done it, you'll have a significant case of the lunch monster. And the lunch monsters, you hire new people, they start at 9:00 and they go to lunch, and the lunch monster eats them and you never see them again. So we hire people that aren't scared of the lunch monster. And then we're going to treat them exceptionally well. And we're basically going to treat them the way we want to be treated. And everybody says that. And everybody says culture is important, but it's a very small percentage of companies that actually live it. When you live it, I mean, we have 20-year staff, we have 20-year teammates that are on the phone 6.5 hours a day, and they've been with us over 20 years. And that either means that we're a really good place to work or that we're too easy. No, we're not too easy. It means that we treat people the way that we'd want to be treated.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't mean we walk on water, because we don't. We make our own mistakes. But for the most part, we have uncommon tenure in a very high turnover industry.
Yeah, yeah. So help me understand, what is the mindset of someone who is a great cold caller like? I mean, like, I feel like I'm probably not that person. I mean, I don't mind making a call, but to make 6-hour, 8-hour calls a day, like, what's their mindset like? What do they think about their job, or what makes them tick?
They're typically great communicators, okay, but they typically do not make great face-to-face salespeople. So they're very good communicators, but but face-to-face is not the arena in which they shine their brightest. They are brightest on the telephone and can be utterly fearless on the telephone. And so if you have someone, everybody has call reluctance, everybody has fear, everybody has imposter syndrome, everybody goes through that at some point. But a person who's good on the phone realizes that the person that I just spoke with, who was angry and called me a name and hung up on me, they realize that that person really isn't angry at them. They're angry with some other area of their life, okay? And they just took it out on our teammate because it was like free. If I yell and scream at my wife, she yells and screams back. But here's somebody in a professional environment, they cannot yell and scream back. And so it's unfortunate that some people act that way, but some people do act that way. And a person has to learn to let that go. Like that Disney movie with the little girls where it's really cold, Frozen. That song was Let It Go, Let It Go. And you got to let that stuff go, okay? Because the very next call might be $1 million call. And so literally in my business and a couple of my businesses, a telephone call might bring $1 million worth of revenue. And so it's really important that I treat that caller or that call recipient with the grace and dignity and enthusiasm that it deserves. And so people with short memories, people that like to talk, people that like to be on the phone, and there's some trial and error. I think every company has a kind of a sweet spot of the type of people they like to recruit. But I'm a big believer in hire fast and fail fast.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you just never know how that person will go, really. I mean, they can pass the interview, but it's really about the working. So how do you keep them engaged after so many years, though, in doing the same job?
so I'm a big believer, and I do a lot of leadership work with a lot of other organizations, but I think one tenet of leadership of people is to understand that people are working for money, but in the US, it's not their primary motivation. Okay. And I would say that's true worldwide. I think that's a human issue. And look, I think you should pay 10 or 20% above market. Okay. That will help you get people that are better than average. Okay. And I have a really good friend here. He sold a company. They did a company in the oil and gas business. They sold 25 years for $35 billion. His theory is hire the best people you can find. And somebody asks, what do you pay them? And he's like, you can't pay them too much. And that's kind of hard for an entrepreneur to hear. But the reality is, if they're really that good, they'll ensure that you have a return.
So true.
Because that's a different level of person. Okay. And so you can almost pay them whatever. They're going to be sure they deliver a multiple of that back to you. And so number one, pay equitably and generously. And then I'm a big believer, like most companies want to pay every month or every 2 weeks. We pay every week, have for years. I think you should try and pay people as much as you can, as quickly as you can, as often as you can. Money is a river, and the more it flows, the more and,
Mm.
build a dam to where you just try and keep all the money and watch things dry up later. Money is a river. And so then the other thing is this, the number one motivation for people to work is actually to feel like they matter and to feel like they belong. And so it's important for the entrepreneur to have a mission. It's important for everybody to know the mission. It's important for the leader to articulate the mission until people start laughing at them about, Lynn, I know the mission. We're like, good, I'm going to tell you again anyway. Okay.
Mm.
And so, my mission is to help others help others. And we happen to do that in a couple of different verticals, but my overall mission is to help people. Okay. And everybody in my company knows it, and they can say it backwards and forwards. And it's real simple. A mission ought to be real simple. Bill Gates, when he started Microsoft, his mission was what? A computer in every home.
Every desk. Yeah.
Every home and every desk in the world. Okay. That's real clear. Okay. And so you have a mission, you articulate it. And I really think the leader's job is just twofold: cast and articulate the vision, and then get the best people on the planet to make the vision happen. And so many times entrepreneurs, we get busy pulling levers and pushing buttons and spinning wheels and, putting the ingredients together, starting the oven, putting the bread in, letting it cook. That's not your job. Your job is vision, vision, vision.
Yeah.
Get the best people, get the best people, get the best people.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because I had to I woke up to that reality recently. I was like, I deep down kind of know my vision and mission. And I think we've said it once or twice back then, but it's not front of mind. And then I realized I need to rally people up and kind of see that this is the big picture. This is how we're getting there. And surprisingly, some of the team members also didn't even know that there were new services that we relaunched, because we didn't really communicate. And so it comes down to top down, just really how are you communicating and sharing that? This leads me to my question around you and your faith, and how has that shaped you as a leader? Because I know that finding Jesus and becoming a Christian has really, amplified my values. I was, attracted to the Christian faith because I felt like there was alignment in the values. But if anything, it's even amplified, and I feel more at peace and calm and knowing that I'm not alone. But I'd love to hear your journey in business and living through as a Christian as well.
I'd love to share. So I know that you came to faith later in life, and I came to faith as a child. And so I don't really remember not being a Christian. But you're not born a Christian. It's a conscious choice. It's a decision. Okay. So I don't have a whole lot of memory of that, of not being a Christian, but even as a young boy, so you have spiritual beliefs and you have worldly beliefs. Okay. And to the Christian, the spiritual belief always supersedes the worldly belief. And so I think entrepreneurs, a common trait we have is that we're somewhat skeptical and we're somewhat rebellious, and we don't take things at face value. And that's been very easy for me my whole life, because I was able to take whatever stimulus it was and run it up against my faith and say, do I believe this? And, a lot of things that happen in the world, I just don't believe, because they don't mesh with my faith. And then really my whole business is just a continuation of my faith. I wrote a book titled Romancing Your Customer, which is all about delivering an exceptional customer experience or treating people the way you'd want to be treated, or to take it a little further, loving others, which is our command, okay, to love others. And so, and I can't always say, I'm 63 years old. And so there's been times when I've been very firmly on my path, and there have been times when I was not. Proud of that. But one of the challenges with the living sacrifices, they're always crawling off the altar. And so I have to choose to crawl back on. But the other thing that has done for me is this. So when I met you on a Zoom call, we talked for about 10 or 15 minutes. You said, I want to ask you a question. I was like, what? And you asked me, are you a Christian? I'm like, I am. And here's what that means to me. I believe that Jesus was born to a virgin mother and died and rose again. And his whole purpose for being here was to save humanity from their sins. And that's what Christian means to me. And so it's interesting that you and I didn't know each other. We knew of each other, but we didn't know each other. We never spoke. In 10 or 15 minutes, you asked me that. And I would tell you that all of the people I work with are not Christians, but a significant percentage are. And, for the most part, that's positive. It's not always positive. I think Mother Teresa said, the best voice for Christianity is a Christian, and the worst voice for Christianity is Christian. And
God.
and I think that's probably true. Okay. But I've been really blessed to work with great people. And then for the Christian, I know that whatever happens here is temporary.
Yeah.
And so I have made a lot of money. I have lost a lot of money. I have done it a couple of times. Okay. And, in the scope of eternity, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter at all. Okay. And so I think my faith has given me proper perspective on how to view things and provided me a standard to which I could judge what I was going to participate in life. And that doesn't mean it's always been easy. I could tell you some horrific stories. Life is hard. Life is a 4-letter word, and sometimes, some days there's been, horrible things I wouldn't wish on anybody. But at the end of the day, I think the Christian has faith that it's going to work out. And when you talk about faith, you have to have faith to be a Jesus believer. But to me, you have to have more faith to be a Jesus disbeliever. There's still faith, but one side is I believe, even history, Jesus was not a mythical character. Even other religions, I think even atheists probably recognize Jesus Christ actually was born and lived. And if he was born, he died. Okay. And he really worked for 3 years, only lived for 33, but he really kind of worked. His mission was for 3 years. The Bible still is the number one best-selling book year after year after year. And, I'm a sales guy, so I'll be a little humorous here. He had a sales crew of 12 guys. Okay. One of them was a dud. Judas wasn't that good.
The 12 disciples, yeah.
Yeah. And if you got 12 salespeople, I'll tell you, 2 or 3 years are duds and 2 or 3 years are champs and chumps and everybody in the middle. And in that 3 years made such an impact on the world that still the number one best-selling book everywhere. And I think where people sometimes get a little lost, and I cast no judgment. I'm merely sharing what I believe and happy to talk with anybody after this that would want to reach out. Death is a funny thing. And so almost every parent, would voluntarily give up their life for their child. Many spouses would voluntarily give up their life for their spouse. Soldiers, sailors, Marines, police officers, fire people, they take jobs where they know they are risking their life for the benefit of others. But the 12 disciples, the 12 apostles, and there's some cloudiness that history has not recorded everything perfectly clear. But for the most part, Judas committed suicide after betraying Christ. 10 of the 11 were murdered horribly. And it looks like the Apostle John, who wrote the book of John, and the book of Revelations, history suggests that he died a normal due to natural causes. But while you have most of humanity who would die for their child or their spouse or their country, these are people who died for somebody who already died.
Powerful. Wow.
Died for somebody who already died. And Peter was crucified like Jesus, but he did not feel worthy to be crucified like Jesus. And so he asked that they crucify him upside down, which they did. And so, regardless of what your beliefs are, I'm speaking to the audience, I'll just tell you that, when you consider death, and that's probably the most private, the most solo experience you have as a human, okay, these 12 people, 11, they died for somebody who was already gone. And that's certainly at a next level belief. That's a next level commitment.
It's almost like die for gratitude for being so grateful for what he's done, that you're willing to still do it, to have his name live on.
Absolutely. And so anyhow, I'm happy to discuss that with people one-on-one, and I'm happy to talk about call centers and entrepreneurship and leadership.
Yeah. Look, I like to kind of throw in all this, because I think that without finding faith, and you kind of go into this rat race of business, and you kind of sometimes question, like, what am I doing this for, But when it's all written in the Bible, and you kind of understand the purpose is we're all God's children, we're all, helping each other because we're all one family, and almost like be fearful of God, because God can help you, can bless you. But if you don't follow certain commandments, you can get, everything can be taken away from you, all the money. And so it's all there. And unless we're awakened to it, we're going to just be lost, and I feel like that's why I want people to hear more about it and be open-minded to it. But before we wrap things up, I would love to just even get some takeaways from you in the last 40, 50 years that you've been around in business and life. Like, what are some key learning that you've learned about life and business?
Great question. See if I can give you a nugget. So one, I'm one of those people who I've been blessed. No, I didn't deserve it. I didn't do anything. I was just born where I was really good at a lot of different things. And I would encourage you that if you're one of those people, to put your time and effort into something that's not in your zone of excellence. So in my zone of excellence, I perform at a higher level than most people on the planet, but it's very safe for me. I know that I'm going to do it very well. And so I'm attracted to it. I know I'm going to do well at it. I know I'm going to win at it. And I also know there's no risk. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I would encourage you, if that's you, to exit that zone of excellence and move into your zone of magnificence. And your zone of magnificence is, maybe you'll do it great, maybe you won't, but there's real risk. And I think that's the only place that you can actually do your very best. And it's scriptural. We're commanded to make the most out of what we have. It's the parable of stewardship. I won't take time to go into that, but I think you should use all of your gifts. And if you just stay in your zone of excellence, which is firmly rooted in your comfort zone, okay, you'll never find out what you can really do. And so get out of your comfort zone, go do something where you can be magnificent and where also you might fail.
Yeah.
But that's where the good stuff is. And I'll add one more thought is this. I grew up, my grandparents were farmers on both sides. Farmers are very self-reliant. They don't ask for help. They just work harder and get things done. But ask for help. Talk to other people. We're part of a 7 billion person, almost 8 now probably, community called Humans. And you'd be amazed at the number of people who will rally and help you if you just ask. And so to me, improvement's really easy. Ask for help, learn something new, put it into action. Many people never ask for help. And so how do you know that the answer to your problem isn't one question, one ask away? Maybe somebody knows exactly how to fix that problem, and you could take a year or 2 or 3 and maybe figure it out. Or you could, I have a client, he said, the reason I hired you is because I have questions and you have answers. I was like, that's about the smartest reason I've ever heard. Okay. And I don't have all the answers, but I have some answers. And, if you can skip the learning curve and you can just get the answers to the test, you'll do better on the test.
Love that. Those are really like golden nuggets, and I couldn't agree more. So thank you so much for being on the show today. I'll make sure to have all your details in the description below. I know you're across LinkedIn. You've got some ebooks and things that you're giving away as well. So I'll put all the links on the bottom so that people can connect with you. So thank you again, Don, for your time today.
Thanks, Lynn. Appreciate it.